This is CPE 233, Computer Design and Assembly Language Programming. So this is an overview of the syllabus. I'll go through it pretty fast. What I'm going to do is highlight the things that are different and that are special. So I'm teaching 2 sections of the course. These are the section times. My name is technically Brian, but I go by James. Please call me James. This is my office at school, but that's totally useless, and this is my email address. You can write me anytime. There are some office hours. Essentially, it's Tuesday, Thursday, 1 to 2, but as you'll see, I'm going to treat this as a flipped class, and pretty much the class times are going to be office hours also. So you're expected to watch the pre-recorded videos, and if you have questions about anything, zoom in and ask me. I'll be sitting there all these times. This is the course description, catalog description, which is pretty much kind of useless because it's so old and no one's ever updated it, but no big deal. The course prerequisites are CPE 133. Hopefully you had that recently and are experts at Verilog, and not necessarily experts, but so for this course there is finally a courseware available. I worked all spring on it and most of summer on it. And so essentially there's the main text, there's assembly language manual, there is a lab activity manual, and then there's just a book on Verilog. Now the book is, we'll go over this in more detail later. The book is like 98% there. I had issues. I didn't really proofread it. I just couldn't proofread it, so there's going to be issues on that one. But most of everything's there. There's a lot of exercises in it. The problem is there's not a solutions manual yet. I'll be working on that. So that lab activity manual and the assembly language manual, they're out there also. Those are pretty much in done states. I didn't really do a lot of work on them. I did clean them up a little bit, but not a big deal. There is a book out there on Verilog also. You should go check that out. So this is all free. It's all on Canvas. I will be downloading new versions at least once a week. So I'd say every Monday and every new experiment you should download the latest and greatest of these things. Software for the course is the Xilinx Vivato software. Hopefully you used that in 133. I'm sure you did. Hopefully you took 133, but if you didn't, life goes on. There's a special note in there for Apple users as well. So homework it's as much as you want to do, nothing that you have to turn in. You should do everything you need to do so you can understand the stuff. That's up for you to decide. Lots of sample problems out there. There's 2 quarters worth of quizzes as well. And all those solutions are posted for these. Like I said, the solutions manual for the textbook is in production. I will get that out there as soon as I can. So here's the grading weighting. I do give a lab final and a lecture final. You can see those there. I also did a weekly quiz. And the new thing here is a status note. So every Monday I'm going to have an assignment that says, tell me where you're at, tell me the problems you're having. Not a big deal, but I did make it part of the grade. So I'm trying something new in this one, is this minimum performance. So if you want an A in the class, you got to do all the experiments. There's 9 experiments, etc., etc. These are minimum requirements. So, if you want to get a C, you got to do experiments 1 through 6. Certainly, you could get higher than that, but minimum to get a C, you got to do, experiments 1 through 6. So those are the grading notes. Generally speaking, the assignments are due, blah blah blah. But as far as turning the labs go, I don't have due dates for those. Roughly speaking, the official due date is 3 class meetings after it was assigned. But what happens is, you got other stuff. I don't really enforce any deadlines like take off points for turning in late. Essentially, if you fall behind, you will not catch up, so don't fall behind. So if you don't turn it in after 3 class meetings, you are officially behind and you're going to be kind of hurting for certain. Also, don't only submit stuff if it works. So the lab hardware is Digilent 3, Digilent Basis 3 development boards, which is probably what you use in 133. Essentially, you need one board per group, etc., but I don't know what groups are anymore. I was going to say you need to purchase these boards from Digilent, but the EE department said they handled this. I'm hoping that's the case. I put a question mark on there because I really don't know what's going on. Maybe someone could fill me in on that. So this is an online course, so I'm guessing you'll probably be working alone, but you can arrange anything you want. You can work with other people. It doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me if you learn the material. And so that essentially most important for the labs is every experiment. Before you start any new experiment, download the latest and greatest lab manual, because I do make changes in it. Changes are improvements. Lab submissions, we're not turning in lab reports. So in the lab manual, it describes lab submissions and lab reports. You can just skip over lab reports. I keep it in there because that's probably the best way to do it, but I'm still not going to do that for some political reasons here. So lab submissions are simpler. It's going to take you less time. Look at the lab manual. Look under submissions, not lab reports. These lab submissions need to be minimum quality. If they're not up to quality, I will ask you to resubmit it every time. I'm not going to paw through junky lab submissions anymore. There is a lab final exam, so keep in mind that just doing the labs is not enough. You got to understand what you're doing to make sure you can repeat back all the things you've learned in it. So this is course overview. It's just still, big pandemic sucks big time. So I learned a lot in spring, have a lot more to learn, admittedly. A typical day, it's going to be a flipped classroom. Typical day is you've looked at the videos, you have a bunch of questions, you bring your questions to class time or office hours, and I will answer your questions. The text is, as I wrote the text, I believe everything in there is important. You can read the text. I know a lot of people did the entire course without reading the text, so whatever works for you, make it work. If something isn't working, I'll change it. Essentially, if you have something, a problem of some type, just let me know. I'll do my best to kind of solve it or just help you out in any way I can. So yeah, if you fall behind, you will not catch up. It's just hopeless. So please don't fall behind. Syllabus may change during the quarter. Other things may change. If something's not right, I'll change it. But by all means, if something doesn't feel right, you have to talk to me. So my job is to help you learn and to evaluate whether you learned or not. The best way you can help me help you is to communicate with me, to tell me what you need, how to help you, etc., etc. Don't hesitate to ask. That's what I'm here for. Spent a lot of idle time in spring, which I spent writing the book. No big deal. Ask me. So the big push now is for diversity and inclusion, and the school is very serious about this, and they've asked people to come up with their own diversity and inclusion statements. So this is my short version here. Essentially what it says is, I believe everyone's unique. I believe everyone can excel in this course, and I'm going to help them do that. And the idea here of one size fits all in education, it just doesn't work anymore. I still have to present it in a generic fashion, but the idea is you ask me if you need something special, and I can do my best to help you out in any way I can. Lastly here, as I mentioned before, the lab final may be during the last class meeting, and it may be during finals week. I haven't decided. So we'll keep that open. We'll talk more about that later. And that is it for this.